Andres and Kelli, thank you so much for being here. I am so excited. So I just want to open a conversation with entrepreneurs, entertainers, on the importance of mental health, mental wellness. We as a society, as a culture, have been taught that if we're successful, we'll be happy. And I have far too many people, far too many stories of seeing people, knowing people, losing people who've been wildly successful, yet miserable. And so I just want to normalize the conversation of taking care of ourselves physically and mentally. And I had the honor of meeting both of you online. I think I posted an ad that I was coming to Nashville and I was doing an Enneagram strategy session. And I got to meet you, Andres, first, and that was a lot of fun. I think we just connected right away because I could tell you were just, one of those people who are doing their work and tuned into your story. And you had talked about just wanting to make the world a better place. And we were we started dreaming like on the call together. Like we were like building, empires on the one call. And then I had the pleasure of meeting your wife, Kelli, and it's just been, I feel like we're just kind of kindred spirits. We've all connected really easily, really well. It's fun when you come and it's like, we're just meeting now?
Yeah.
I feel like I know you guys, and I do, but it's nice to meet you in person. And one thing that's unique and, part of the work that I do is couples coaching. And so I'm always inspired when I see a couple where there are two, not one, but two entrepreneurs. It can be really challenging when there's one, because the other person doesn't really understand that grind, the schedule, the inconsistency, the uncertainty. And so you're both in it, and you both have dreams that are individual, and you're a running and wellness health coach, and you're an artist and a motivational speaker, and we can talk more about that, but I want to focus on how you individually and as a couple, why is mental health important to you? How did you align there? And how does that play out? Why is that important to talk about as entrepreneurs specifically?
Yeah, so mental health, I think, is extremely important because that's where we live. We live in our minds, we live in our heads, we manifest reality through the thoughts that come, right? Thoughts, words, actions. And what is the most important thing and landscape to develop than the landscape of our minds, the landscape that is within us, the conversation we have with ourselves. The conversation we have with ourselves reflects the conversation we have with others. And it's a work in progress, and that's where mental health comes, taking care of the mind. Taking care of the garden of your mind.
Yeah, I like that. It's a beautiful visual. And it impacts everything else, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do the two of you talk about mental health together?
Yeah, we do. So it's more like, for me, self-care, or mental health really to me is inner peace and self-care. That's what we practice all the time. We call it, if we recognize that one of us is off, we say, are you halting? Are you either hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? So just being able to check in with yourself and your emotions. And mental health in general, physical, mental, spiritual health is so important, because if you don't have your health, then what do you really have? And I think too, like the global pandemic that everybody has just been through over the last few years is just really such an eye-opener that you really need to be prioritizing your health, and that will determine kind of your quality of life.
Yeah. So you both seem like, to me, very peaceful, intentional people, individually and as a couple, and I'm just naturally drawn to that. But are you willing to share a time where, whether it be individually or together as a couple, that you've struggled with your mental health?
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've definitely been in what Paulo Coelho, the great author, calls the dark nights of the soul. several of those dark nights. But again, planting a garden in our minds requires the journey of the seed, which I'm very drawn to the journey of the seed because it's such a metaphor for life and the human experience. The human experience is so abstract and so hard to really grasp the human experience. Why are we here? The existential kind of question. So the journey of the seed is similar to that, where it gets singled out and it is thrown into the dirt and the dark and the wet and the cold and the loneliness and the pain, and it has to suffer, and it's alone, and it has to die to itself to then rebirth as a beautiful plant, as a beautiful tree trunk with branches and leaves and fruit, and then those fruit have seeds of their own. And so it's finding the fruit, finding the seed, finding the gift. And I feel like I've been through the types of things that are so abstracted to most people. They'd be living a life of victimhood, in which I have experienced as well. My family has experienced a lot of trauma and a lot of mental health issues, and so
was mine.
Yeah, and so it's been passed down from generation to generation, and I was the one who recognized the pattern. So I'm grateful that my journey has led me to say, hey, wait a minute, there's a pattern here. Let's understand it and grow from it.
Yeah.
But there's definitely been many times where I've cried on her shoulder and I have felt like, why am I here?
What's the point?
What's the point? I've locked myself in my vehicle. Definitely, there's been times in my life when about 2 or 3 really, really, really intense dark nights of the soul. One of those being during the 2020 pandemic. And I've locked myself in a vehicle where nobody could hear me and just screaming at the top of my lungs, like, why? What is the purpose? Why am I here? And just almost blaming life, blaming the universe, like, why do I still exist? But it is those places where you come and you bring back some snippet of wisdom of the meaning of life, the reason for being. So yeah, Kelli has been there for me. Our son Oscar has definitely been there for me. Little angels.
He's a dog.
Our son Oscar, our dog.
I
Yeah,
didn't know there was.
he's a cutie. But yeah.
Yeah, and I guess I have struggled with my mental health a lot. And as Andres mentioned too, just like a lot of generational things that have been passed down. And for me, a lot of that, post-college Kelli, party Kelli, post-college Kelli, just, continued to do what I thought was right, going and getting a job and continuing to get promotions and moving in that right direction. But I also struggled definitely with addiction, with alcohol. In our society, it's so normalized. So I think once I realized that I want to put a huge focus and priority on my health, my overall health, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health, I really realized, alcohol no longer serves a purpose for me anymore. But also just the journey and the transition into entrepreneurship. So I've gave up alcohol, I went vegan, I became a minimalist, I got married, I've had all this change over the last few years, and really I'm coming into my authentic, most genuine version of myself, where I feel the most like me, but also there can be a lot of relationships that just weren't meant to carry on to this phase. So some of my previous friends, once I started growing and changing and evolving, they weren't there to support that growth. And so I had to learn to let go.
Yeah. And I think in order to let go of anything, right, whether it's alcohol or a relationship or a career, it does require that process of I have to choose myself. When you're in the car and you're screaming and you're at that crossroad of this is going to go one way or the other. It's either going to be over or I'm going to choose life. And if I'm going to choose life, I have to choose myself. And it sounds like in different ways you've both done that.
Yeah.
And I can't, like, I cannot not name, like, what you're doing, because you both named family of origin stories and generational, you know, whether it's, you know, you want to call it dysfunction or mental health or mental illness or trauma, you're changing generational trauma. You are healing together, even with your dog Oscar, right? Like, you're healing generational trauma. And I think that's what these conversations are all about, because I think a lot of us come from backgrounds where that is normal and we don't know. And so we're just self-medicating and we're hustling and striving, again, back to that, okay, if I make it, if I'm successful, if I make money, if I have a nice car, whatever, I'll be different than the family. But we get there and we're like, I'm still hooked. I'm still dysregulated. I'm still sad. And I'm successful, but I'm miserable. So I love that you guys together as a newly married couple, you've been married a little over a year?
It'll be a year in July.
Oh, a year, it's coming up. That's so exciting. I just want to honor the work that you're doing, you know, spiritually and interpersonally to change generational trauma. It's amazing.
And it's work.
It's work.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
You earn it.
Yeah, it's not fun, but it's so worth it.
It's individual
Yeah.
and together. But I feel like one of the reasons we've had so much success in our relationship is not because we're perfect or anything, but because individually we have done the work and we were already happy on our own. We were already content with life. We were already living, choosing happy. That's her motto, actually.
Yeah.
Choose happy, healthy love, right? And so we were already wonderful people on our own. And then we got together and with Oscar, and then we was just cherries on top.
Yeah.
So life was already beautiful, but we made it that much more beautiful, and we're continuing to work on the recipe, right? And it's a never-ending process, but I feel that we have a very tasty meal coming up. Right? Good
Love
Even
formula.
like in our vows, our wedding vows, we both committed to work on ourselves, because it's a constant, it's constant work, and just continuing to have a growth mindset, staying curious. That's something that we both just promised to work on ourselves, because how I show up for myself, like if I can show up for myself fully, then I can show up in our marriage fully. And
that's powerful. So I have friends who are also coaches, and their business is called So That, and it's self, others, and world. And so their philosophy is when we heal ourselves, we heal others, and when we heal others, we heal the world. And it does. It starts with us. It starts with choosing us first. And I love that you came to this place like this. It's amazing, because I think as individuals, when we're in pain, we do tend to, especially as a trauma response, go outside of ourselves. Right? I'm gonna get the drink, I'm gonna get the job, I'm gonna get the degree, the status, I'm gonna get the spouse, the dog, and it just is never enough, right? And you guys came in it from a healthy place, that I'm taking care of me so that I can bring my best to this relationship, and we together can evolve as a healthy couple, which you both are very generous in your entrepreneurship. And I don't know any entrepreneur who's doing their healing work that isn't doing it to make the world a better place. And I've had enough conversations with the two of you, and we've connected enough to know that's what you're doing, and it's beautiful. So I follow you guys on social media, and I'm inspired. You're both very motivational. You draw people in to the possibility of an abundant life. You travel, you're out, just trying to make the world a better place. And I think it would be easy for someone who maybe isn't there yet to say, oh, they have it made, oh, they have it so easy, they're so lucky. I know before being a business owner, I was like, oh my gosh, business owners are the smartest, luckiest, richest people, and they don't have to work very hard, until I opened my business. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that. This is not how it works. But how do you maintain, because I know you've gotten here through a lot of work. You didn't just arrive and like, oh, life has been a breeze. So how do you individually maintain your mental wellness, and how do you do that together as a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Kim. So being a sculptor, being an artist, being a muralist, as well as having my own coaching, mentorship clients through creativity mindset, I have had to continuously tap into the quantum creative field. And that's the place where I feel most alive, where I feel most inspired, most at peace, most in spirit, inspired. And that's the impact I'm bringing into the world. So my intention now is to build my frame of mind to be living from that place of inspiration, of living in the quantum field of possibilities, of embracing the unknown. And some of the exercises that we've learned together, that we've co-created, and that we have been able to impart to those that we're meant to create an impact on our communities, is, of course, a practice of creativity, of expressing emotion. So naming an emotion. How do I feel? So HALT is one of our tools. Are we hungry? Are we angry? Are we lonely? Are we tired? And so maybe we had a little fuss with each other, and it's like an hour or two or the day later, we're like, hey, I didn't realize it, but I apologize. Like, I was kind of snappy yesterday. I realized that I was hungry, and I felt really lonely in this project. Like, I felt like I had to do it all by myself. But that wasn't true. You were at work, and you couldn't have helped me with remodeling the house because you were at work, but I felt that way. And so then it combined, and it came out this way. I apologize. I love you. And then we are able to identify and work on things. So HALT is one of the tools. What's the tool you enjoy?
And then just like if we're starting to get our emotions like up like this, we're both very like excited people, so we start talking business or just dreams and different ideas. But yeah, sometimes if our emotions start to go into a sassy or a snappy place, it's just kind of like, okay, you're in a mood right now, realizing your emotions, and then we'll say to each other, like, I'm gonna let you just go breathe. Just breathe. We'll do that a few times, and then we'll come back to each other. So I think just really being intuitive about your emotions, because you're not always going to be happy, positive cheerleader Kelli that's like, let's go work out, yes, let's move, let's run, let's blah, blah, blah. Your emotions go like this, but the better that you can self-regulate your emotions and also become aware of your emotions, I can realize like, oh, I'm just really in a negative mood today. And somebody might say that to me, and they're like, you're always the positive one. So it's just kind of like being aware and in tune with your emotions. And for me, how I get out of that if I'm in a funk is I run and I work out and I get my sweat on. So definitely physical work for me is my place to go to let my mind be free. It's my place to de-stress. Running for me has always been very much a personal solo sport, although the whole running community is huge and such a great uplifting community, but for me it's always just been very much a personal just exercise.
Yeah, so Kelli mentioned breathing, which is massive
It starts with the breath.
Just
Get
taking-
back into your body.
Exactly, taking 30 to 60 seconds before, during, or after a situation and just allowing the breath to bring clarity to your thoughts, to your emotions, and scientifically, you know, it's oxygen, reoxygenating your brain, which most of society lives dehydrated and not normally breathing pure air, if you think about it. Living in a big city, smog and pollution, etc., and then people smoking or vaping habits, you know, there's not much of a pure oxygen breathing intake. And then people drink a lot of coffee or a lot of bubbly drinks or soda, or every weekend it's social alcohol, and then the diet. So we're consistently consuming, and we're consistently advertising, bombarded all of these things that are not necessarily natural to humans. And my practice and what I lead my community through is focus on your breath, because that's the biggest tool that you have. If you learn anything at all ever from these conversations, it's our breath is such a great tool, beautiful, lovely tool. But then getting out into nature, and that's another healing practice for us and for me, is intentionally leaving the house, intentionally leaving the city, intentionally leaving the environment that maybe caused me the emotions that I'm working through, and getting out in Mother Earth.
Well, and I have to say, I love that you have your sculpture garden right there on the premises of where you live. It's amazing.
Like we've created a sanctuary with our house as well. So and home environment is so huge. It's something that a lot of us don't realize. You know, if you're sitting in an office with papers and clutter everywhere, that's the energy that you're going to attract.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely hugely important to us. And he mentioned diet too, but that's
diet. The way we eat. And we're not talking about diet like go on this and that diet and you'll do this and that.
Every day. This
more being
morning I was like, okay, we have a busy day. Okay, what meals are we gonna eat out? How much are we gonna, what's our budget for the day for food?
I love it.
So just being intentional and having a plan, so that because how you consume today is gonna determine how you'll feel tomorrow and the next few days. Yeah.
So our tools, to summarize it, are breathing, hydration, healthy food, working out, or some sort of physical activity.
Sleep.
Which emotions are energy in motion, so lots of physical activity can help release that stress and that anxiety from us, and that's why she's a runner and she's gotten me into running. And with my sculpting, it's a very physically involved practice and dance of processing emotion into an abstract shape. But so that and grounding. Grounding. I can't say that enough. Taking your shoes off, barefoot, and being on the soil.
He's been
or on
mowing
the
the
earth.
lawn.
Barefoot?
We've got almost half an acre.
Wow.
Almost half an acre. Just I take my shirt off, and I don't mind if the neighbors don't mind. I don't mind. You know, it's summer,
even if
so
they do.
even if, I mean,
Choose you.
the funny thing my neighbors say is, you know, your lawnmower is too loud. But the funny part about it is that it's a real mower, which means it has no motors. So I try to be as I guess conscious as possible of I really don't like the sound of lawnmowers, especially on a beautiful day. It's really not my sound. I prefer hearing the birds and the wind. So my way of dealing with that is I have a mower that's actually a real mower. Anyway, I take my shoes off, I walk around, and I mow. And I meditate in that way too.
That's awesome.
Earlier on in our relationship, we have a dog named Oscar. He's 13 now. But when we first met, Andres decided that he just didn't want to pick up his poop. We were living in an apartment complex, Yeah. He didn't want to pick up Oscar's poop anymore. He decided that he was done.
I like that you clarified that.
But now he's taken on full dog dad responsibilities, and Oscar has, became his wingman. He's his #1 personal assistant.
Mm-hmm. He helps me in the studio.
Yep.
He helps me with my clients.
He
Everything.
just follows him around all day, every day.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. You guys have an obviously fun relationship. You've said there's lots of stories. And it's so clear that you are living very intentional lives individually and together. So as entrepreneurs, what would you say, what would you offer to other entrepreneurs on this quest of being mentally well so that we can heal, so that we can heal others, so we can make the world a more peaceful place? What would you offer to other entrepreneurs to stay mentally well?
Yeah, I think, a few things come to mind, but however it is, find a way that you stay inspired. For me, it's physical fitness, and I think everybody should at least get 30 minutes of physical activity every day, because it's your physical health and your mental health are so closely intertwined. We were talking about just oxygen intake earlier. It's really, after a long stressful day, one of the best things that you can do is get in physical activity. But to young entrepreneurs, I would just say finding your real purpose and your passions, but then also finding, within your business, you're gonna go harder for obviously the things that matter the most to you, but then finding ways of self-care that you can really fully decompress and unwind, whether it's reading. I listened to a ton of podcasts recently, so just getting motivated and inspired on either different topics. It could be about mindset, it could be about relationships, anything that's going to help you just kind of shift your frame of mind into a more positive, just kind of, educational. And then I would say too, just networking with folks in your industry, but also outside of your industry. So everybody always asks, what do you do for work? And so, but really getting to know the people in your industry and finding who's inspiring you as well. There are a lot of people in the health and fitness and coaching industry that I look up to, because there's so many professionals out there in my industry, and so finding people that you can really either maybe reach out to them, ask if you can have coffee, get a mentorship, finding advocates within your industry as well.
That's great. So the advice I can give younger or early entrepreneurs, and I would still consider myself a fairly early stage young entrepreneur, there's always something new to learn. But always keep a beginner's mind. There's always something new to learn. There's always something interesting, and there's always a new perspective on a topic. Even the pros still practice the basics, right? And so that part, always stay inspired. Realign with your purpose. And if it's something you have yet to find, I would say do the work that it takes to realign to your purpose. Because a lot of entrepreneurs go into business thinking, if I get into social media marketing, I'm going to be a multi-millionaire. That's true. You can be a multi-millionaire at anything. You can sell pet rocks and become a multi-millionaire. But is this your purpose? Is this what you're called for? Is this meaningful? Is this intentional? So finding your reason for being, your reason for living, truly what the impact you're here to make. Staying in touch with your creativity, staying in touch with your highest, most aligned self, and finding it, looking for it every day. It's already within.
Yeah, I think too, every day you have every hour, every minute you have a new choice to reset your frame of mind and choose happy. That's my life motto. Life's too short, life is too precious and too beautiful to really not find the joy
right.
in everyday living. you know?
Yeah, and she's really good at that, and I feel that we really are able to come together and find the joy and choose the happy in the difficult moments, and choose the happy in the fun moments, and so they all kind of turn into this learning experience, growing opportunity. We try to make every experience, and we realize we're no longer victims. We no longer live from a victimhood mindset. We live from an empowered mindset. Talking about mottos, hers is choose happy. Mine is empower yourself, empower others. Love yourself, love others. So it's a simple motto, and those are, it's simple. It sounds simple, but it's practical, but it also takes practice.
Yes. Put in the work, like you said.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And, I always talk to people about the 4 things we need for optimal mental health. It starts with wellness, accessing what's within us first, physical, practicing gratitude, drinking water. It's the first thing I talk to people about. Drinking water, the very first thing, start there. It can be really simple. We have a lot of power within us. And the other one is connection, having a community. The other one is meaning, finding your purpose, knowing you're here for a reason, you're here to have an impact. And if those areas are not leading you to the life that you want, because I want people to live an abundant life, be wildly successful and fulfilled, not wildly successful and miserable, obviously. And so the last one is healing. But really, the 2 of you have named all 4 of those that you are doing intentionally, and that is what, my motto, you talked about your mottos, choose happy and, taking care of yourself and loving yourself and others. And mine is let's leave the world a little better than we found it. And I think that starts with us. And when we are doing our work, we have the greatest impact. And so I'm just inspired by, I know what it takes to make those decisions every day. You don't always want to get up and run. You don't always want to have water. You don't always want to go to bed at a decent time. And I see you just living it out, and you're making it very obvious how achievable it is, and it's inspiring. So I love the work that you're doing. I love the way that you're living, and I love the lives that you're changing. And just thank you for being part of this conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.